you're gonna laugh. So, most mornings I do my morning run through the Santa Monica Mountains. I usually run past these two massive rocks. Matter of fact, they're pretty famous rocks at the top of the mountain that a lot of the hikers will trek like 3 hours to get up to. I happen to live on the top of the mountain, so I only have a couple mile run to come down to them. And the rocks are called Eagle Rock and Skull Rock. And it's because they look like an eagle and a skull. And I've sat above them before, but today I found that you could actually climb through the back of the eye of the skull. And that's actually where I'm sitting right now. So check out the view real quick. So here's the view. So I'm literally sitting inside the eye of what looks like a skull rock. And I'm way up here. So I'm sitting in the eye of the skull. For those, how in the world did you climb up there? There's actually a little hole right there that I managed to fit through. I guess it pays to having been on the V-shaped shake for the last, 10 years to fit through spaces like that. And as I'm sitting here, I came up, and just for some synchronicity, you guys, before we get to the topic at hand, found my initials that someone had already put on the rock that was here earlier. So beautiful day, happy Saturday. Hey, want to have a real conversation, kind of a heart-to-heart on something that's on my mind that I know is affecting so many people out there. And would love to get some participation in this. So good to see all of you. Feel free to share this live, or if you can, feel free to tag some friends. And, I want to talk about what I think the number one villain that today is robbing most people from success. It's robbing people from happiness. I think it's the largest villain that every day is robbing people from the life that you're meant to live. And what's crazy about this villain is this villain's powerful, but a lot of times this villain's even invisible. And I want to talk about that. I want to get some engagement and some participation in this, and I think it'll be a valuable conversation. So hang with me here. I want to pick up some live viewers as you guys are joining. Go ahead and tell me the city you're from. I see some people guessing on the villain. J. Morrow, Fear, it's a good guess. You guys can throw some guess on what you think the villain is. Here are some signs if the villain is affecting you, or maybe your loved ones or people you know. Have you ever been going about like a normal day, and you see something on the news, and all of a sudden, like, it completely hijacks your emotions? Like, you get angry, or you get sad, or you get upset, or you were on a course of your normal day on a normal state, and all of a sudden, one news clip, one headline, one comment completely hijacks your entire emotional system. Who's had that experience before? Or maybe if we're not watching news today, kind of the equivalent is social media, right? So we happen to just be sitting down, and we do a quick scroll through our phone, and by scrolling through our phone, we all of a sudden see a post. And someone's post, completely takes over, right, our emotions. Or even a comment on our own post, right? How many of you have ever had that experience where you're going through a normal day, there's a little view behind, right? So there you go. And all of a sudden, your emotions get completely hijacked. That's this villain that I want to talk about here today. Or on the other side, maybe it's not just a quick moment where your emotions immediately get hijacked or changed. How many of you know people right now? We got helicopters flying over. Say hello. How many of you guys know people that for some reason can't stay the course? Can't keep focused? They get started in one thing, and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're high as a kite, right? They're so excited. They found, right, their end game, and a couple months later, it's like they're right back to this state of, man, life's not working for me. It's so-and-so's fault. I'm blaming this, blaming that, getting defensive, and they're on to the next thing. And, that might happen just once, right? And it's okay. But a lot of times then they find a new thing and they're high as a kite. It's the greatest thing ever. And then all of a sudden, a couple months later, they're back down and it's somebody else's fault and they're blaming and defending. And how many of you know people that have this shiny object syndrome today, right? Always chasing the new shiny object, always, right, chasing the next flavor of the month, right? Always on to the next thing. It's perpetually going after the grass that is greener. And they end up living their life, right, being the frog, right, hopping from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, with the right intention, maybe hoping, right, that eventually they're going to find what they're looking for. But the pattern and the history tells the story that it's not. How many of you know people that are stuck in that situation, right? Go ahead and give me a comment here. I can see either of those, right? Little quick, hits that are hijacking emotions, or people who really are getting their life, like months and years, hijacked by this shiny object syndrome, right? I think it's like the new cancer. What's the new cancer today? FOMO. FOMO is the name of the new cancer today. Fear of missing out. This FOMO cancer that is literally yanking people in one direction and then yanking people in another direction. And people are literally living their life getting blown by the wind or infected by the cancer of FOMO. And it is wasting their life, their talent, their potential. That's this villain. Any guesses on what villain I'm talking about? Because they're both the same. You guys, the villain that I'm referring to, and stay with me here, is the villain of propaganda. I think propaganda is one of the largest villains today, and for so many people, it goes beyond what they know. It goes into the unknown. They don't even know what they're getting affected by. Now, let me define what I mean by propaganda here, okay? Propaganda is anything that presents some information in a biased way, all right? Propaganda, may have some blatant facts out there designed to persuade or designed to influence, or it might just have selective facts. A lot of times propaganda isn't necessarily a lie. Sometimes it can be. A lot of times it could just be selective truths. There's a lot of great people out there. Some of the best at propaganda just present the selective truths, right, to get their point across, conveniently leaving out the rest of the truths that provide a full context. Propaganda comes down to intention. Propaganda is any conversation, any piece of media, any video, any post, and any headline that's designed to influence someone to go in the direction of their intention. It's propaganda. And the reason that I say that propaganda is one of the largest villains today is for both of those reasons. And I'm going to talk about two, right? There's one that's more obvious, okay? And there's one that's less obvious. So let's talk about the obvious ways propaganda hijack our emotions. Okay, the obvious ones are when we see something that we flat out don't like, we disagree with, right? We know that it has an intention behind it and it still gets us mad, gets us angry, gets us sad, gets us upset, gets us reactive, and takes over our emotions. This happens every day in social media, it happens every day in news, it happens every day, all the time. And we may think this doesn't have an effect on us, guys, but it does. Those little moments, even if it affects your energy for 5 minutes, just robbed you of your life for 5 minutes. A lot of times we may see something that affects our emotional state for an hour. It just robbed your life of that hour. Because propaganda, even in the little increments of little things that upset you, are robbing your life of minutes, of hours, of days, of weeks, all the time. This is the obvious one. It's like Chinese water torture. It's like sitting there and drip, 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 drip. And we don't even realize it's happening, and we're still letting ourselves get dripped on every single day by things that are hijacking our life. Death by 1,000 paper cuts every single day. Cut, 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 cut. And we're letting that happen. We're even addicted to receiving it. I mean, so many people plugged in, thriving on the drama, thriving on the negativity, thriving on what's new. Like, I watch people around me all the time get stuck on this. And they know it affects their state, and they know they get pissed off, and they know their emotions getting hijacked, and they know their life's getting stolen, and then they still feel addicted to watch, read, comment. It's an addiction to today's propaganda. And it's a villain that's robbing you of your life. Now that's the obvious one, because you know you disagree. You know it's pissing you off. You know it's making you mad. And yet we still let it in our life every single day. Steal minutes, steal moments, steal hours, steal days. Let me give you the less obvious one that falls under propaganda as a villain that's robbing you from your life every day. And the reason that this is less obvious is sometimes propaganda comes disguised as opportunity. Greatest thing we have about living in the world today, there's limitless opportunity. We have access to 24/7. It fills up our phone. There's more opportunity today than ever before. That's the amazing thing. Worst thing about today, we're connected all the time. There's unlimited opportunity, right? Everywhere we go, there's things to do. You guys, we don't die today from starvation. We die today a death of indigestion, meaning there's just too much out there. So a lot of times propaganda comes disguised as opportunity. Obviously, I own, 2 direct sales companies. Been doing this 19 years. I'm in the world of developing and inspiring entrepreneurs. So I see this happen all the time in the world of entrepreneurship. Because as entrepreneurs, we're always hopeful. We always believe in something more. We always want something better. But a lot of times in today's day and age, this FOMO cancer, this endless opportunity, this shiny object syndrome, this what's the next big thing. The problem is we're not staying focused anywhere long enough as entrepreneurs out there in order to achieve success, results, fulfillment, the end game that you're chasing. And I watch people do this all the time. And it's always the same message. It's like, oh, here's the next big thing. I'm so excited. Same conversation they said at this one they started 6 months ago and the one they started a year ago. And we're creating this syndrome of the overnight entrepreneur chasing the get rich quick. Guys, at the end of the day, it comes down to intention. You got to look at the intention of the conversations that are happening out there. If you see, right, a pitch, if you see an opportunity, if you see a marketing message, you have to learn to see the intention behind the conversation. And a lot of the times, the intention may come across as nice and polite, but let's not be naive, right? The intention is to persuade you to do something. And we have to be mindful of the intention of the propaganda that's around us every single day. So guys, propaganda is the villain. There's the obvious death by 1,000 paper cuts, the things we see, the things we don't like, and the things that we still let hijacked. There's the less obvious that comes disguised as opportunity. But even when it's disguised as opportunity, there's an intention. And if we continue to get pulled in different directions non-stop all the time, you're never going to go get to the results that you want. So what do we do about this? I'll give you 3 questions to ask. These are like your weapons in fighting the villain of propaganda, okay? 3 questions you can ask on either the obvious or the less obvious attacks that we get every single day. The first question you can ask is this giving or taking my energy? First question, is it giving or taking my energy? Everything will either give energy to you or take energy from you. That's it. It's an easy question. And if it's something that gives energy to you, the energy you want, positive energy, uplifting energy, empowering energy, inspiring energy, energy that pushes you forward in the direction you're meant to do, keep it in your life. But if it takes energy, why would you keep it in your life? Why would you keep it in your life? Turn it off. Change the channel. Unsubscribe, right? Get it out of your system. To sit there and think that it's not affecting you is either naive or it's ego. It's naive because you're unaware of the effect that it's having, or it's ego because you think you can handle it. But guys, none of us are that strong. Your attention is getting hijacked, and the easiest way is to change the channel, unsubscribe, turn it off. And I'm not saying it's not opportunity. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. But if it's not giving you energy in the direction you want to go, cut it out of your life. That's the easy one. So question number 1, ask, is it giving or is it taking energy from you? Question number 2 that you can ask yourself is, what's the intention behind the propaganda? There's always an intention. You guys, the words say one thing, the intention is usually another. And too often we listen to the talk without acknowledging the walk. What is the intention behind what you're reading? Is the pitch because they really care? Is the excitement because it's really what's best for you? Or is the propaganda because they have a motive behind what they're doing? And that motive may not be in the same direction that you're meant to go. I've learned to listen to the intention behind people's actions, the intention behind people's words. Don't be naive. What is the intention? Ask the question. You'll start to see a little bit deeper around the propaganda out there. So number 1, is it taking, right, or giving energy? Number 2, what is the intention behind it? And the last question I would ask, and the most important, is it in alignment with where you're meant to go, with what you're meant to do, with the person you're meant to be, with the life you're meant to live? Is it in alignment with your talents and your gifts? Is it in alignment with what you're personally passionate about, what moves you, what you're most excited about? Is it in alignment with where you see your personal purpose and calling? Because guys, if it's not in alignment, it may be an opportunity, but it's not your opportunity. There's a difference between an opportunity and your opportunity. There is no limit on opportunity today. Yeah, sure, I made my first million by 25. I built a $2 billion company by the time that I was 30. And the obvious thing you see is what I did to do that. What you don't see is everything I had to say no to do that. I get opportunities every single day. It's what I say no to that allows me to focus on the things that I do. Steve Jobs had the famous quote that I'm more proud about what I say no to every day than the things I say yes to. So guys, just because it's an opportunity doesn't mean it's your opportunity. So you got to understand, if all you're doing is chasing the shiny object and it's not in alignment with you, your passion, your purpose, your potential, it's never going to work. If all you're doing is chasing the money, chasing the dollar, chasing the promise of get rich quick, and it's not in alignment with the path that you're meant to be on, it's never going to work long term. You'll turn into the frog, the hopping from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, chasing the perpetual green grass, and never get to happiness. Never. I see people do this for their life. Never. Years, decades, still doing the same thing because they don't ask these questions. The villain of propaganda is robbing them of their life. Guys, the opposite of what I'm talking about, alignment with your potential, your purpose, your passion, the opposite of that is this, and I'll just get real with you. If you ever make decisions based on fear, it's probably the wrong decision. If you ever make decisions based on ego, and the same side of the coin with ego is insecurity, because you're chasing an acceptance or someone's feeding your ego, it's probably the wrong decision. And if you're ever making a decision based on greed, and I know greed's a harsh word, let's use the more modern term, based on money and money alone, it's probably the wrong decision. Guys, propaganda feeds on those things. Propaganda feeds into our fear, feeds into our ego, feeds into our greed that's natural and in all of us, and robs us of our minutes, our moments, our weeks, our years, our life. So ask yourself the 3 questions. When you see the news clip, you see the tweet, You see the Facebook ad, you see the Instagram ad, you see all the propaganda that we get hit with in every direction 24/7 today. Ask yourself this: does this give energy or take energy? If it gives, keep it in your life. If it takes, unsubscribe. It's not worth it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's called maturity, learning how to block out the things that are not in alignment with you. Number 2, ask yourself, what's the intention behind what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, why they're doing it? Not what they're saying. Talk's cheap. What they're doing and why they're doing it. What's the intention behind it? And then lastly, is that in alignment with the path I'm on, who I'm meant to be, the life I'm meant to live, the purpose I'm meant to have, the passion I've been given, the potential and gifts and talents that I've been given? Is it in alignment? And if it's not in alignment, shut the door and move on. There's a path meant for you. So guys, that's my message today. I think the number one villain is propaganda. I think there's obvious stuff we see every day, and there's less obvious stuff that we're dying of indigestion on. And I think we need to raise the level of consciousness and awareness out there to teach people how to fight the villain. And you can, by asking yourself some simple questions. Hey guys, one more view here, flip it back around. Man, this is freaking awesome. If you guys ever in a Santa Monica area, Malibu area, hey, hit me up. We'll go for a morning run. I'll show you the secret spot and how to climb into the eye of the skull. Other than that, have an amazing, amazing Saturday. If you got value from this, I don't even know if you can share Instagram Lives. Can you share this thing? If you can share this, hey, share the post with someone that'll get value from it. Feel free to tag people. Let me know in the comments. I'll read all of this. Let me know if you got value from it. And other than that, I'm gonna figure out how to get freaking out of this rock. I gotta climb back and get back to my run. I'll show you guys one more view. Here you go. Happy Saturday, everybody. Enjoy.